My name is Palma Accardi, and you are watching Tidal Flooding Talk. We're here live at the Irish Pub in Atlantic City, and brought to you by the New Jersey Coastal Coalition.
I'm meteorologist Dan Skeldon. Welcome to spring. It is our first show at the Irish Pub in a few weeks. We had St. Patrick's Day, we had a baby, we had vacations.
We did.
And what better way to kick off the spring season with the best South Jersey meteorologist in my book. I always introduce you as my meteorological mentor because I think you
Say
are.
Say that 3 times fast.
Yeah, it's a tongue twister. Meteorological mentor, Jim Eberwine. He needs no introduction. Jim, thanks so much for being with us.
Quite well.
Thanks for joining us.
And my life has been nowhere exciting as yours has been the last couple of months. I'm just quiet.
I don't know. To a normal person, maybe, but you're Jim Eberwine, and your life is always exciting.
Always exciting. I'm happy to be here. I really am.
And you've been, sorry.
I was going to say, Jim's retired.
That's what I was
in air
gonna
quotes.
Yeah.
So explain your retirement. You just lounge around on the couch all day and watch TV.
He doesn't
watch
even know
TV.
what day it is. He's just hanging out.
I get up in the morning on Monday, go teach class, go back home, go teach class at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. On Tuesday, I teach class in the morning. On Wednesday, I teach class in the morning. On Thursday, I teach class in the morning. Then I'll be teaching a course to the state police. And other than that, I'm bagging chocolate.
Now, you actually teach several courses that have to do with operating drones.
Yes.
Could you tell us more about that and what led you to that class?
Well, I was asked by a gentleman by the name of Jim Taggart, who runs the drone program over at Atlantic Cape Community College. He asked me if I would teach the aviation and weather aspect of it. Jim leads the way, and he's got Tim Swick, who are excellent. And they asked me if I would teach aviation weather, and it started out for air traffic controllers, pilots, fixed wing and helicopter, and then it's transitioned over the last 6 or 7 years over to drone pilots. Everybody's getting into drones now, and so Atlantic Cape asked me if I would teach their freshman class, and they take their classes at the college. So for 3 years I've been teaching them, and then last year I was asked by Cape May Technology School to teach that class down in Cape May. So it's the same curriculum, but it's designed for different students, different ages. But the big thing, as you say, Palma, is drones.
And South Jersey, and specifically Cape May County, is trying to become a little bit of a drone capital, if you will.
Yes. And they have a conference. The first thing that's coming up is May 31st at the Atlantic Cape Community College. It's a drone symposium, and Jim Taggart will be heading that. And then there's a 3-day conference which will be held down at Cape May, and that was at the Wildwood Convention Center, Cape May Convention Center, and then also the ferry terminal. They bring some great minds into Cape May, from teachers to law enforcement, homeland security to academics. And they're coming up with all these different ideas and uses for drones, and they're absolutely mind-boggling, some of the things.
Now, how much is weather involved?
Well, Dan will tell you, drones have a smaller window to operate in, not only in airspace, but also you can only take winds so high. For instance, a helicopter, if you're learning how to fly a helicopter, your threshold's about 35 miles an hour, 30 miles an hour. When you're flying drones, 20 miles an hour, 15 miles an hour is kind of a threshold, because you don't want your drone to end up in the ocean, like I would do if I was flying it. So the threshold's different. You can't take a lot of rain or any rain at all because the instruments are so small, and they have all these sensors on them. Icing is a problem too. 40 degrees is a critical temperature also for flying drones.
Oh, so not even just rain and snow, but actual
temperature.
Okay.
Oh yeah. But they're, since coming out with this years ago, everything's going to be perfected. Everything's going to be perfected. And Atlantic Cape is kind of leading the way in the drone industry locally. And you have right up the street the FAA Tech Center. And those people are in tune to the drone, not only operating them, but telling you about the national airspace, where you can fly them, what your regulations are. So when you take your classes to get a drone license, you'll learn all about the national airspace, you'll learn all about weather. And we just had the folks from Atlantic City, the police and firemen and beach patrol, who were taking drone classes.
How long is the course?
It's like a semester course, but it's really involved and it's really nice. Like I mentioned to you before, Palma, I had 2 students in my class. They have their own business, and they're inspecting high tension wires and things like that. But there's many uses to it.
Now, drones have just exploded in their uses and their popularity and their numbers.
Not literally
in the last,
exploded?
thankfully not.
Thank God.
Unless it's under
Watch what
40
he
degrees,
says.
maybe.
Yeah,
But,
can you cut that from the tape?
but let's say, since Sandy, 2012,
Yeah.
or Joan
Yeah.
is 2016, how can drone technology be used in storms, useful for emergency managers and shore communities? And let's
got it
bring
right
it back to our center tidal flooding. How can it be useful?
That's exactly. Drones can be used for tidal flooding, and I was talking to Tom, and he mentioned they have this camera going on station here pretty soon to tell you where the flooding is.
In Seattle,
Yeah, Seattle. The drones can do that. They can also be used if you have a major storm and you don't have any communications. Verizon works with a drone company, and they were showing you how to connect communications to a drone so you can continue talking to emergency managers. Another one is in the wintertime when you get a lot of rivers and streams that are iced over, you can send a drone up and see what's happening on those small streams and rivers, see if the ice is breaking and stuff. But in New Jersey, specifically for what you mentioned, the coastal flooding, if you can't get to someplace, helicopters are expensive, and they may be used for search and rescue, whereas somebody using a drone can go out there and tell you what the conditions are, where the roads are flooding, where the egress areas are, and things like that.
Now, are there some issues? A quick follow-up question. I know as a former Ocean City resident, Ocean City kind of banned drones from, I want to say, most of their airspace. Is that going to be an issue, or is that something where they can, relinquish those restrictions, like around storms or whatnot? Like how much of an issue is restricted airspace along the shore?
Well, when they first came out and became popular, and I know the issue you're talking about in Ocean City, they actually banned them. It's 5 miles from an airport, 400 feet ceiling, in other words, and line of sight. You don't want them to get away from you. But in talking to the people from the FAA and also Jim Taggart, they may be relaxing some of these things to accommodate more people and more drones. But like you said, Cape May, South Jersey is an ideal spot for drones because you don't have a big airport down in Cape May County.
Yeah, you just have Ocean City, Woodbine, and Rio Grande, right?
And they use those small airports for when they do their testing too, so it's ideal. And there's many uses to them, and like I said, a couple of people, I know they're doing high tension wires. A kid called me up and said, Mr. Eberwine, I can't take my test today. I'm up north doing I said, knock yourself out. Knock yourself out. You'll still get an A.
Now you also have some sort of class for law enforcement. What does that entail?
Well, when I worked for the National Weather Service, we partnered a lot with emergency managers. And in the state of New Jersey, the Office of Emergency Management is headed by New Jersey State Police. So we were always working with them, and for about a 15-year period, Weather Service personnel went to Rutgers and taught this course for a week on hurricanes, flash floods up. So it's kind of like what they call a science of disasters course. And what you're trying to do is to take what you know in weather and share it with the people in emergency management who are the ones who are going to have to respond if something goes wrong. The idea, Palma, is emergency managers don't get enough information soon enough, and Dan will tell you that. Because before you have to learn about the storm, they have to know about it because they have to have equipment moved, they have to do this. Like these brush fires that we're seeing, wildfires in South Jersey. We talk about that too. When's the best time of the year they're going to happen? How the winds play a major role in that. So it's an all-encompassing science of disasters course. And it's a 2-day course, and emergency managers attend it, and it's basically the same thing I was doing when I worked in the Weather Service.
So the best thing to do for a community is just to have their emergency manager be a meteorologist.
Well, now
I'm kidding.
Well, now I'm back to Absecon again.
Right,
I'm now. They asked me.
It's an inside joke.
They asked me to become the emergency managing coordinator for Absecon again, and I took that job back on a month and a half ago.
Again, part of
but
your
I'm
retirement.
retired.
You're
Retired.
retired.
Yeah, retired.
Yeah, I mean, are we bridging that disconnect, or at least like having those offices communicate better, meteorologists and emergency management?
Well,
it's a crucial relationship.
I'll tell you a quick story. In 2011, NJIT up in Newark, they had 18 Chinese meteorologists come from mainland China, and the purpose was coming to see how our weather service works with emergency management, so they could practice how to do the same thing and techniques back in China.
Okay.
Well, they invited me up to speak to the Chinese group, and through an interpreter. So I explained to them how we work with our emergency management community.
You mean you're not taking up the Chinese language in retirement either? Not yet?
I may.
Okay.
In fact, I got a special forecast for the Yangtze River coming down tomorrow.
Okay.
So. But no, that was interesting. But it just goes to show you how other countries view what we do with emergency managers, which is absolutely critical in the United States. We have 320 million people in the country, and we're going to have, it's estimated, another 100 million by the year 2050. They're all going to settle in the hurricane belt area. They're all going to settle in the flood-prone area. So it's even going to be more of a problem.
Well, can you tell us what communication is like now between a meteorologist and the local communities, whether it's the law enforcement or emergency managers?
A1. And Dan will tell you, he knows all these folks. Every county has an emergency management coordinator, and every municipality has an emergency management coordinator too. And we take our direction from the county. The county takes theirs from the state. And if there is a disaster that is, say, locally to Absecon and it overwhelms the community, we pick up the phone and call, like Mike Brandenburg over at Galloway or Rich Maxwell or someone else. And if they can't handle it, we go to the county. County calls the state, and state, if it's something that's really, really a disaster, like the derecho in 2012, you call in FEMA. And then FEMA will come in, and you'll get all the necessary equipment you need, you get all the necessary trailers or food that you need, and then whatever you spend cleaning up that disaster, you'll be reimbursed to the tune of, I think, 75%. So it's very critical.
Unfortunately, we've had a lot of practice, and I mean, especially like 2012 to maybe 2016 was kind of our worst time frame. But practice may not necessarily make perfect, but it gets us a lot better.
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah. Well, before that, that's a good point. Before say Gloria in '85, which didn't do too much, we had no file footage. We had no storms, which is good, but which is bad because you didn't have any practice. For the hurricane season, we practice with nor'easters, which are small-scale hurricanes. And again, we never had any file footage. Whenever we talked about hurricanes, we would have to show a lady called Camille, we'd have to show Andrew, something happening elsewhere, and say, this could happen here.
And people don't connect with that.
They don't connect with that.
Right.
Now,
so you think we improved in communication since, the major storm, superstorm Sandy?
Oh, I think so. And Dan's had a large part in that because he's had to broadcast it. I remember during Sandy, you would walk around the studio and it was crazy for hours on end. But yeah, it's gotten better. And I always tell people, if you're concerned about what's happening in your community, contact the county office of emergency management. They're the ones who are going to have everything in place. They're going to tell you. And then stay with the media. Stay with the media to find out what the latest forecast. Or I'll plug my old employer, weather.gov, National Weather Service, Mount Holly. So,
and we have great, and I've got to work with them over the years, great municipal and county emergency managers throughout South Jersey. We really are lucky.
They are top-notch. They are top-notch. And that's what you want because, and the other thing too is, don't forget the electric company, the gas company, the public work guys. Without those guys, I know, when there's a storm, everybody gets upset. Where's my electricity? But an electric company can't go out and try to fix anything if the winds are over 35 miles an hour. People don't know that.
I remember specifically after the derecho, not necessarily a tidal flooding event, but you mentioned it, June 2012. I remember the amount of tree damage and power line damage that they had to bring outside companies. They couldn't believe the damage. Most people had electricity back in 10 days, yet it's human nature. You want it back immediately.
You want it back.
So I think 10 days is a marvel of what they did, while there was a lot of frustration.
Oh, yeah.
I was out giving electric companies from New York and New Jersey, all over the place. Water, because it was like 90-something degrees. Yeah, you're right. They should absolutely be.
The next day after that, there was a travel ban imposed for Atlantic County. But it was 95 degrees, 500,000 cars went through. A travel ban. I'm thinking, are you kidding me?
People are going to hit the beach.
Yeah.
Now, typically, how soon after a storm is the wind less than 35 miles per hour?
It would be less, for the most part, less than a day.
Okay.
Yeah, less than a day. Yeah, I mean,
unless it's a lingering nor'easter.
Yeah, and you don't want to send out a first responder in winds that are 39 miles an hour, sustained, not gust, sustained, because in their haste to go and try to save somebody, if they get somebody, they may go over overpasses, and those winds are higher as you go up. In other words, on the ground they may be 40 miles an hour, but going over some of these causeways, they could be 70. Or like going to LBI, that could be 70. And if they have somebody there, they're transporting that vehicle, which is high profile, to turn over. But I want to the flooding this year. I think last time I was here, I said a successful winter would be no flooding.
Yeah,
you mentioned nor'easters in practice, right?
Yeah.
This year, how strange is it to not really have? I mean, not every year are we going to have a Jonas or a historic nor'easter, but how unusual is it to have a successful season?
We didn't have. Is this wood?
It is.
We didn't have one coastal flood warning
for the winter. We had like October, right? We had one, but since then
we haven't had Cape May, any down south. We had one up in the Raritan for Monmouth County and also for I think Middlesex.
And even that
didn't reach Central. No.
So you described this last winter as a successful.
Absolutely.
Now, how usual or unusual is that? Because lately we've been having multiple ones per winter, and I know that's a little unusual too.
Yes.
But how unusual is it to have none throughout a winter season?
Well, even if you look at last year, we didn't have that many either, so it was kind of quiet. Yeah, it is unusual. It is unusual, and then now we're ending March, which is by far the one that you really have to watch for storms.
And last year was.
And as we're speaking, there's one that may be off the coast. What, Tuesday or Wednesday?
Yeah, Tuesday night, but we get brushed with a few showers.
So you'll be hearing on TV, there could be a nor'easter coming up the coast. But by all accounts, it looks like it's just going to skip by.
It'll be coming off the coast, but it'll be hundreds of miles off the coast.
So we've been very, very fortunate. Our snow-wise, our average was 16.5. We got 16.7.
And most of that was nickel and diming, right?
Nickel
it was
and diming,
2 here, 3 here.
But boy, it was great snowball snow.
It was. It was. Now, are we out of the woods for nor'easters? I mean, I know they can happen in April and May.
Yeah.
And then do you have any early thoughts on hurricane season this year, or is it too early still for that?
Well, you know what a lot of people dismiss? Hybrid storms. When you have a leftover winter storm that can merge with a early tropical storm. Yeah, you still have strong. Remember that one, November 11th, we had one?
Yes.
Ida?
Yep.
That was
Nor-Ida,
Nor-Ida.
They combined Ida with nor'easter, yes.
Yeah, that was nasty. Now, as far as the hurricane season, you know what I'm seeing early, Dan? I'm seeing a lot of dust. Have you noticed that in the satellite?
A little
picture?
bit, yes.
There's a lot of dust coming off of Africa now. And what that means is hurricanes like clean air, like us. They like very clean air. And there's a lot of dust coming off the African coast.
From the Saharan Desert.
Saharan Desert. And it comes all the way across sometimes to the Mediterranean, depending on what the prevailing winds are. And that along with cooler waters right now, as we get into the hurricanes, I know we're 3 months away, but that inhibits any kind of growth until the air gets cleaner and the water gets warmer. So right now, I think we're in fine shape for a couple of months.
And there's no correlation between a nor'easter season being good or bad and a hurricane season being good or bad, right?
That'd be nice if there was. That's a good study. That's a very good study. Yeah, you can look into that. I did see. We had a storm this year. It was the only storm since October of 1980. On October 26, 1980, where it took our tides up to minor and then gave us a blowout tide.
Okay.
The only storm since 1980.
Okay.
You see how we delve into this stuff?
It's easy for you guys.
We're weather we.
And we're converting Palma into one gradually too. Gradually.
But the thing about the coastal flooding and what you guys are doing here, that's what you call a call to action to the people. You want to keep them in tune with the weather, because the National Weather Service is, what they're doing is they're trying to promote this new idea called Weather Ready Nation. And you can't be weather ready unless you have the public involved. So what you're doing is the link between the Weather Service and the general public, because most of the general public have a tough time. They're not so concerned about, say, like the flooding. They just want to know where to look up the information to see it, and that's what's going to happen with that camera you have in CI. They can see the physical flooding.
And we hope that's a prototype for many more to come.
Yes.
And I think that's a realistic goal, but we'd love to have one in every community, or more than one in every community.
Yep.
Someday.
Now, after such a successful winter, what do you think we have to look forward to in the next few months?
Well, you know what I was thinking? Last year was a record wet year. The first 3 months of this year compared to last year, we're 4 inches down both at the airport and the city. In fact, we're almost to normal. However, all that moisture that's in the ground, I would lean more toward a very humid kind of environment this summer.
Because the ground is so wet. The
It's
soil
so
moisture
wet.
is really, really high.
Yeah, and we've had my wife has her store. Our sump pumps have been on for 4 straight months, running for 4 straight months, because the water table's so high. So I think it's going to be a very humid summer. Very humid.
That's no fun. Does that mean thunderstorms
Oh,
with
absolutely.
more humidity? Better chance of thunderstorms.
Yep.
Dan, did you want me to look if we have?
Absolutely. Do you have any?
I'll check. If anyone has any questions or comments, I'm going to check them now.
And of course, remember, Tidal Flooding Talk brought to you by the New Jersey Coastal Coalition. Always working to just increase awareness of tidal flooding along the shore, save homeowners along the shore, save their property, save their lives, and just increase the awareness with residents, with visitors, with emergency managers, and those in power in the community as well. And of course, we are here every Sunday, 7 p.m. at the Irish Pub. We had a few Sundays off. Kenzie will not be making an appearance. My 3-week-old daughter. She was more popular than I was the last couple of weeks. But we may have her here next week. We'll be down next weekend, and she may or may not make an appearance next weekend. We'll have a great guest next weekend, and then I know the following Sunday, the 14th, we'll have Joe Martucci, meteorologist for the Press of Atlantic City, as a guest as well. So Palma is just getting hit again and again with a double dose of meteorologists. So again, the conversion to a weather weenie continuing. And then we'll take Easter Sunday most likely off with the holiday. And we'll be back on the 28th. I think we are. I don't. So maybe I'll have one. Kenzie will be back on Easter Sunday.
Alright, so I'm on the Facebook comments. Justin Thomas said you went to his son's school in 7th grade.
Yes.
What did you used to tell the students? Anything?
Well, I tried not to lie to them, first off. I tried to tell them everything. But no, I enjoyed that aspect of my job, going out to we call it outreach, and going to the school. And I guess, Mama, I think that's what kind of got me prepared to teach today, because I was going out and speaking to the school. And I always enjoyed it.
Different age group, though.
Yeah, oh yeah, different age group.
And I agree. It was one of the best parts. It is the best part of my job, because I am a big kid when it comes to weather. So I love talking to kids about the weather, because I am a big kid.
Yeah.
Everyone else is just saying hello. Gloria wants to know how your daughter is. So.
Kenzie is great. 3 weeks, 1 day old.
Wow.
My paternity leave ends tomorrow, so I'm very sad. I got to start shaving again. I'm very sad. As a meteorologist on TV for 20-something years, I have to shave every day. So this is the longest I've ever gone.
Yeah, you
since
can
2003.
see it on the
I shaved once. In 3 weeks I shaved because we had a family portrait. So I was told I had to shave. So this is about a week and a half.
By who?
By Kenzie. By Kenzie. So I was told by Kenzie I had to shave. But Kenzie is doing great and may make an appearance here next week. She was with the Easter Bunny today.
Wow.
So she had a picture with the Easter Bunny.
Wow.
Have you had your picture with the Easter Bunny yet?
Not
In
yet,
your
but
retirement, not yet?
I
Okay.
certainly will be having my picture. In fact, I play the Easter Bunny.
Well, see, our executive
Why are
director
you the Easter
sometimes
Bunny
plays the
right
Easter Bunny
now?
too.
And maybe back around Easter.
Oh my goodness, it is around.
I'm multifaceted. I'm multifaceted.
Is there anything else, Mr. Eberwine, that you wanted to discuss as we went from drones to the Easter Bunny and everything in between?
No, I would just tell people, just continue to watch the media. And you mentioned Joe Martucci. Joe, since he's been in the press, does a pretty good job.
Does he hound you as much as I did? You see a phone call, Press of Atlantic City.
Oh, he's
again.
always backing up into my driveway and coming here. But he'll text me every once in a while. We stay in touch, and he's good. He's got a lot of information.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
And the social media, which you were heralding early on years ago, I think people have probably followed you in that respect, because a lot of information is getting out on social media.
And hopefully it's the good information, because there is misinformation on social media, which we've talked about too. But follow a credible source, and you'll be good. Hopefully this is a credible source. With Jim Eberwine on it, it's a credible source.
Definitely.
With Palma Accardi on it, it's a credible source.
And then follow the Coastal Coalition. I mean, if you're concerned about flooding at the Jersey Shore, and a lot of people are, get on the website, look at the information, and you feel the more you know, the more comfortable you feel when there's an event coming. And you watch when these storms are coming, you won't be so surprised by them when you follow. And you see them coming, you see what the forecasters are putting out about Holly, things like that.
And hopefully we'll just have a whole lot of successful summers and winters ahead with no storms.
Absolutely.
Right? Knock on wood.
And then to end it with the emergency management community. They're the people who are your first responders. Police, fire, EMTs, public works, and utility companies. South Jersey is serviced by a very good electric company, and that's a plus in itself. Absolutely. Yeah. But just keep following the storms if any are on the horizon. Like I said, there may be one on Tuesday.
But it should be off the coast.
Off the coast.
Should be off.
You heard it first.
I was the only one that didn't get to knock on wood, so I'll do it to that. Well, we're glad to have you again. Third show.
I thank you very much for inviting me again,
And of
Palma.
course,
So he knows what's coming now. Then he has a collection.
Irish pub T-shirt.
Whoa.
Is this
And I'm
your
Irish,
second
too.
or your third one? Did we
That
get
was
you
my
one?
second. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm Irish.
Perfect.
That's perfect.
And again, our guest this week has been Jim Eberwine. We'll see you back here next week at the Irish Pub on the April 7th. You're always welcome to come on down to the pub, or you can just join the discussion live online on Facebook. There'll be archives on Facebook as well. On the 14th, we'll have Mr. Martucci here with us as well.
And
Jim
if
Eberwine. Thank you.
it's great to tune in on Facebook, but if you don't actually come here, you miss out on the food, which is really good. So
Love
I
the chicken
suggest
fingers.
coming here right to
Absolutely.
the Irish Pub.
That's right, St. James Place.
St. James Place.
Orange on the Monopoly board, $180, I believe. Back in those old prices. I don't know what the price is today, but can you name the other two orange properties in Monopoly?
I haven't seen a Monopoly board in like
Syracuse.
a very long time. I don't remember.
Tennessee Avenue and New York Avenue, if I'm not mistaken. Then it was free parking. I played Monopoly a lot as a kid. So thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you back here next Sunday night, 7 p.m.